For as long as humans have gazed at the stars, we have asked a question that transcends generations. Where did we come from? Are we children of chance, molded by billions of years of change? Or are we the result of something more mysterious, an intricate design woven into the fabric of life itself? Tonight, we embark on a journey through time, across epochs and extinctions, to trace the remarkable story of man, the Homo sapiens. 4.5 billion years ago, our world was born, a ball of molten rock spun through the void, scarred by asteroids, smothered in poisonous gases, with oceans that boiled and vanished again and again. It was a hostile, alien planet, a place where no human, no animal, no plant could survive. Yet against all odds, here, on this dangerous, chaotic stage, the miracle of life would begin. Out of destruction came creation. Each asteroid impact brought not only fire, but also gifts, water, and the building blocks of life itself. The Earth was becoming a cradle, though it did not yet know what it would hold. 4 billion years ago, the surface cools, water condenses, and oceans form. Hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the sea pump out heat and minerals. In the deep oceans, far from the fiery surface, cracks in the Earth's crust spewed chemical-rich waters. Here, in these hidden chambers, life may have taken its first breath. They were not animals, not plants, not even complex in form. They were tiny, microscopic cells. Yet in their simplicity lay the power to transform the world. They divided, consumed, and multiplied. Slowly, the silent oceans began to teem with invisible pioneers. It was the greatest environmental shift in Earth's history. At first, oxygen was poison, wiping out many early organisms, but for others, it was opportunity. With oxygen came energy, fuel for evolution. And so, the stage was set for life, not just to survive, but to flourish. From chance mutations, from failures and survivors, evolution had begun its endless experiment. The tiny architects of life were building a future they could never imagine, a future that would one day lead to us. From the fire of creation and the silence of the oceans, life had taken its first steps. Fragile, invisible, but unstoppable. This was the dawn of life, the opening chapter in humanity's distant story. For billions of years, life knew only one home: the oceans. In the weightless embrace of water, creatures flourished. They grew shells, fins, teeth, and armor. The seas were a kingdom of extraordinary experiments, an endless canvas where evolution painted with wild imagination. About 541 million years ago, a sudden burst of diversity occurs. Nearly every major group of animals first appears. Trilobites, anomalocaridids, giant shrimp-like predators, and jawless fish dominate. In what scientists call the Cambrian explosion, life's diversity surged. Creatures with shells, eyes, spines, and teeth appeared almost overnight in the fossil record. For the first time, the ocean was not just a place to drift, it was a battlefield. By 41 million years later, jawless fish emerge. They develop cartilage skeletons and primitive fins. Later, jaws evolve, transforming life forever. The invention of jaws changed everything. It turned defenseless drifters into predators. The oceans became a theater of hunters and hunted, a cycle of survival that pushed life to grow stronger, faster, and more complex. The land was no longer barren. It offered fresh air, food, and untouched worlds. For some creatures, the shore was a dangerous temptation, but one worth exploring. One remarkable creature, Tiktaalik, stood at the boundary of two worlds. with gills for the water and primitive lungs for the air. It was both fish and amphibian. Its fins carried bones that would one day become wrists, hands, and fingers. With awkward movements, it wriggled onto muddy shores, rewriting the destiny of life on Earth. The first true pioneers of land were amphibians. They breathed the air, walked with legs, yet returned to the water to lay their eggs, half bound to the sea, half embracing the land. They were the first explorers of a new frontier. The invention of the amniotic egg was as revolutionary as fire or the wheel would one day be for humans. It allowed life to fully conquer the land. For the first time, animals no longer depended on water to continue their lineage. The earth was theirs to explore. From the safety of oceans to the open world of forests and deserts, life had broken its final tether. The land was no longer silent. It was alive, with footsteps, with breath, and with the beating hearts of creatures that dared to leave the sea behind. For millions of years, Earth belonged not to us, not even to our small ancestors, but to giants, dinosaurs, the rulers of the Mesozoic era, dominated land, sea, and sky. They were the undisputed masters of life, and for a time, it seemed nothing could challenge their reign. For nearly 160 million years, dinosaurs were nature's greatest success story. They adapted to every climate, filled every niche, and grew to unimaginable sizes. In their shadow, our tiny mammalian ancestors seemed insignificant, clinging to survival in the cracks of this dinosaur world. While dinosaurs thundered across the land, mammals lived in silence. They were small, fragile, and easily overlooked creatures of the night. But their very weakness was their strength. They could go where giants could not, eat what giants ignored, and endure in ways giants could not. It happened in an instant. The age of giants ended in fire. A rock from the heavens struck Earth with the force of billions of nuclear bombs. Darkness fell, plants withered, oceans collapsed, and the mighty dinosaurs perished. Their reign, so long and absolute, was undone in a geological heartbeat. But out of devastation came opportunity. The survivors, small, unremarkable mammals, now had an empty world to inherit. Freed from the shadows of giants, they grew bolder, larger, and more diverse. Evolution accelerated, and with it came the seeds of intelligence. Among them, our ancestors were waiting. The world of giants was gone. But life had not ended. It had changed. From small survivors came the architects of the future, the mammals. The giants were gone. The world they left behind was quieter, greener, and full of possibility. From the ashes of extinction, a new order of life began to emerge. Creatures that were small, agile, and clever. They would not rule with size or strength, but with adaptability, curiosity, and eventually, intelligence. These were the primates. Around 55 to 60 million years ago, the earliest primates appeared. They evolved in the dense tropical forests that covered Earth. Small, tree-dwelling, nocturnal, with large eyes adapted for night vision. Life in the trees shaped them. Their hands became grasping tools. Their eyes grew forward-facing to judge distances, and their brains began to swell with new abilities. Unlike the heavy-footed dinosaurs, these were creatures of balance, agility, and perception. Forward-facing eyes gave depth perception, vital for leaping through trees. Opposable thumbs allowed gripping branches and manipulating objects. Enhanced touch and coordination laid the foundation for problem-solving. Eyes that could see in 3 dimensions. Hands that could grip and feel, a body built for motion and a brain built for learning. With every adaptation, primates gained the tools not just to survive, but to outthink. Over millions of years, primates branched into many forms. They spread across continents, adapting to every environment. Some stayed small, clinging to ancient ways. Others evolved larger bodies, stronger communities, and sharper minds. Among them rose a special group, the apes, stronger, smarter, and more social than any before them. They would bring us closer to the threshold of humanity. To live together is to think together. In the safety of the group, primates discovered trust, care, and even deception. Survival depended not just on strength, but on memory, empathy, and cunning. Evolution had begun to reward not the strongest, but the smartest. By around 7 to 10 million years ago, some apes in Africa began to evolve differently. Climate change shifted forests to grasslands, forcing new survival strategies. These apes would give rise to the first hominins, our direct ancestors. Something remarkable began. A new path unfolded. Apes descended from the safety of the trees and faced the open savanna. Here, in this uncertain world, every adaptation mattered. The stage was set for the next great leap in evolution, toward creatures who would stand upright and take the first steps into human history. From small eyes in the treetops to minds that could imagine the future, the rise of primates brought us to the very edge of humanity. And soon, the first of our kind would walk the earth. The world was changing. Forests shrank. Grasslands spread. Life that once thrived in the shelter of trees now faced the dangers of open plains. Here, survival demanded something new. And in this crucible of change, a creature appeared who took the first true steps toward humanity. To walk upright was to see farther, to carry food, to free the hands for tools and children. It was more than survival. It was the beginning of a journey no other creature would take. In 1974, paleoanthropologists discovered the fossil of a female Australopithecus afarensis in Ethiopia. Her name was Lucy, a small female, delicate in build, yet immense in significance. For the first time, the world could look into the deep past and see one of its earliest walkers, a being who bridged the divide between ape and human. Why did they rise? Was it the endless march across open plains, the need to carry and provide, or the gaze lifted to the horizon, always searching for what lay beyond? Perhaps it was all of these, a symphony of survival written in bone and motion. They were not fully human. Their brains were small, their bodies still partly tied to the trees, but in their footprints, frozen in ash for millions of years, lies a silent testimony, the first path ever walked by human feet. Their lives were harsh and short. Danger lurked in every shadow. Yet they endured, not through strength, but through togetherness, adaptability, and the courage to step where no other creature had. Lucy was not alone, nor was she the end. She was a chapter, a small but powerful step in a story still unfolding. In her bones, we see our own beginnings, fragile yet unstoppable, walking toward a destiny written across time. From the trees to the open plains, from fragile footprints to civilizations yet to come, the Australopithecines took the first steps into humanity. And soon, their children would shape fire, tools, and the world itself. The path from ape to man was not sudden. It was a series of small steps, countless generations refining survival. Around 2 million years ago, a new kind of creature emerged, smarter, more skillful, more human than any before. They were not us, but they were close. This is the story of Homo habilis and Homo erectus, the toolmakers and the wanderers. In the shifting landscapes of East Africa, scientists uncovered fragments of skulls and tools. They belonged to a creature unlike any before, Homo habilis, the handyman. A small body, but with a growing brain. Habilis was still part ape, long arms for climbing, small in stature. But inside the skull, a change was underway. The brain was expanding. A mind was awakening. With sharp stones, habilis carved meat from carcasses, cracked bones for rich marrow. They could eat what others could not, giving them an edge in survival. From habilis would rise a new species, taller, stronger, more adventurous. They would be the first of our kind to stand tall, to master fire, to leave Africa. They were Homo erectus, the upright humans. Unlike habilis, erectus had long legs, short arms, and a body built for walking great distances. They could travel far, chase prey, and endure the heat of open plains. And then came fire, a gift that transformed existence. With fire, erectus could drive away predators, extend the day into night, cook food, unlocking energy that fueled even greater brain growth. Erectus was a traveler. From Africa, they walked out into the unknown, reaching distant lands. For the first time in history, humans became a global species. Erectus shaped stone, not just for function, but for form. Their hand axes were elegant, symmetrical, purposeful. This was intelligence in action, the beginnings of technology. They hunted together, shared food, perhaps even cared for the weak. Around their fires, did they speak? Did they tell stories in simple sounds? We may never know, but in their communities, the first whispers of culture were born. Homo habilis, the first to shape tools. Homo erectus, the first to master fire and conquer distance. Together, they carried the torch of evolution, lighting the way to us. Without them, there would be no us. We are their legacy, the inheritors of their tools, their journeys, their dreams. We think of ourselves as unique, the only humans to walk the earth. But not long ago, we were not alone. The world was once shared by many kinds of humans, each with their own ways of living, their own triumphs, and their own destinies. The Neanderthals were not brutes. They were intelligent, resourceful, and resilient. They mastered fire, hunted in groups, and cared for their sick. They were survivors of the Ice Age, kings and queens of the cold. They are gone, yet not gone. A whisper of Neanderthal still lives in us, in our blood, our skin, even the way we fight disease. The Denisovans remain shadows, ghosts traced in our genes. We have never seen their faces, but their legacy breathes in those who live upon the roof of the world. Across the world, scattered sparks of humanity lit up the darkness. Small and strange, tall and robust, ancient and new. They remind us that our lineage was never straight, but a tangled web of lives and possibilities. When Homo sapiens spread out of Africa, 70,000 years ago, they met these other humans. Sometimes they fought, sometimes they mingled, sometimes they loved. Interbreeding left traces of DNA that shape immunity, metabolism, and even traits like skin color today. They were not strangers, but kin. Our ancestors met them, across fires, across rivers, across time. Some were rivals, some became family, and together, they shaped who we are. One by one, they vanished, not in fire and fury, but in the quiet erosion of time. And yet, their echoes live on, in our bones, our blood, and the questions we still cannot answer. We were not always alone. For hundreds of thousands of years, we shared this world with others, humans of many kinds. Today, we are the last survivors of that great family. But in our veins flows the memory of all who came before. 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were not special. They were fragile bands of foragers, one among many kinds of humans. Yet within a few thousand years, they would outlast all rivals, conquer every continent, and reshape the face of Earth. What changed? The answer is not muscle, nor size, nor tools alone. The answer lies in the mind, in imagination. Around 70,000 to 50,000 years ago, sapiens developed a far more sophisticated form of communication than any species before them. Not just grunts or signals, but symbolic language. The ability to describe things not present, to share plans, to tell stories. For the first time, words could carry the weight of memory, warning, and dream. Language turned a group of individuals into a tribe. It allowed the dead to speak through stories, and the unborn to be imagined in plans. Unlike animals that warn of lion nearby, sapiens could say, "The lion often hunts near the river at dawn. Let us ambush it tomorrow." Chimpanzees can cooperate in dozens, Neanderthals in small bands, but Homo sapiens learned to bind thousands, not by blood, but by story. They invented gods, totems, and laws. And though invisible, these shared fictions were more powerful than any spear. This ability would later lead to tribes, kingdoms, and eventually nations. But it began in whispers around campfires. They painted not for survival, but for meaning. They carved not for use, but for beauty. In caves, they sang to the echoes of eternity. Art was not food or fire. It was proof that the human mind had crossed a threshold. They no longer lived only in the world that was, but in the worlds they imagined. While others struggled to survive, sapiens multiplied, spread, and flourished. Their secret weapon was not stone or fire, but story. They were the animal that believed, and belief remade the world. Why did the spark ignite in sapiens and not in Neanderthals? Was it chance, a mutation in the brain? Was it necessity, hardship forging imagination? Or was it destiny, the inevitable path of life reaching for thought? We do not know. And perhaps we never will. The cognitive revolution was the birth of us, the dreaming animal. From that moment, humans were no longer bound to the present. They could summon the past, imagine the future, and create worlds of gods and nations, of beauty and terror. It was the mind, not the spear, that made sapiens the rulers of Earth. The story of human evolution is long and wondrous, yet it is also broken. For every fossil that speaks, there are 100 missing. For every answer science provides, 1,000 questions remain. What we do not know may be just as important as what we do. We imagine a straight line, from ape to man. But evolution is not a line. It is a bush, full of branches, most broken, most gone. We are but one twig that survived. Who knows how many other twigs once bloomed and are now lost to time? For nearly 2 million years, tools changed little. Then, in a heartbeat of history, the mind of sapiens ignited. Was it chance? Was it necessity? Or was it something greater? A mystery written in our DNA. They were like us, strong, intelligent, resourceful. Yet they are gone, and we remain. Did we destroy them? Did we embrace them? Or were they simply unable to adapt to the storm that was Homo sapiens? Their voices are silent, yet they whisper still, in our blood. We can measure bones, trace genes, and map migrations. But what of the soul? At what moment did matter begin to dream of itself? When did the universe, through us, become aware that it exists? The story of man is not finished. Just as Neanderthals once looked upon us, perhaps one day another being will look upon our fossils and wonder, who were the sapiens, and why did they vanish? The origin of man is not just a tale of bones and dust. It is a mystery written in stone, in blood, in the stars. We are ancient creatures, dreamers of myths, builders of empires. We are the storytellers of Earth, and our story has only just begun. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more historic videos. See you in my next video.